Seat at the Table, hosted by yours truly, Karl Singleton. Here at A Seat at the Table, we pride ourselves on bringing decision makers or those with connections to decision makers to our viewing audience so that we can ensure that our community needs and resources meet. Of course, today is no different. We're going to be joined today by several individuals that can help us continue our conversation we started last week with our young people, in which we were thoroughly engaged with young minds who came and had point blank discussions around what they see in terms of needs in our community from a young person's perspective. And a lot of it focused on programming, not only in the schools, but outside of the schools. And so I reached out. We were able to engage two community leaders, Mr. Anthony Duke, Coach Duke Burnett of Loop B&G, Boys and Girls Left Out organization, as well as Mr. Mark Hawthorne, who is the CEO over at the Boys and Girls Club of Harrisburg. Not only that, but we've also been able to contact Mr. Robert B., who heads up Channel 27 News here locally as the general manager, station manager. And so what we hope to accomplish today is continuing this conversation that our young people led off with last week, so that we can start to have a discussion. And I was remiss because, of course, Commissioner Carter and Dauphin County Judge Royce Morris was also a part of that discussion. So we're continuing the dialogue with more specific programming opportunities for our young people that are available to them, as well as talking about how we can start to formulate that narrative in our communities of there being positive things for our young people to be involved with, and not only involved with, but become a part of as a career pathway ultimately. And so on the other side of this commercial, we are going to be joined again by Mr. Luke B&G's own Coach Duke, Anthony Burnett, as well as Mark Hawthorne, Boys and Girls Club, and Robert B. of Channel 27 News, where he serves as the station's general manager. We'll see you on the other side of this commercial. Thanks for joining us. We are now joined by our community leaders, Mr. Robert B. From 27 News, Mr. Anthony Duke Burnett from Loop B&G, and Mr. Mark Hawthorne. So, gentlemen, you can start with Mark. Introduce yourselves, and basically, you know what we're here to do, to talk about, and just talk about, you know, what your perspective is based on our pre-discussion, we'll say.
Once again, thanks you guys for having me here. Karl, Mark Hawthorne, Boys and Girls Club of Harrisburg, Executive Director, and as I said, just I'm honored to be here today to have another discussion about the children in our community that we're serving. You know, I've been a part of this from the business side of Boys and Girls Clubs. I've been working with our children almost 30 years now, and have enjoyed the ride, but am seeing an evolution of changes going on with our children and needs within our community. So I'm glad to sit here and talk and have a discussion with the panel today.
Also, my name is Anthony Burnett, known as Dr. Burnett in the community, and Coach Duke. Like Hawthorne was saying, I've been in the business for 20 years with our nonprofit organization, actually the founder of Loop B&G, and also, you know, just being a coach to the community in a way of not just saying, you know, coach on the basketball court, but life coach. So, and also a pastor within the community. We have a Kingdom Youth Ministry that we do, and we pretty much run about 7 days a week. So alongside of my wife, of course, and a great team that we have working with the grassroots program. And I see a lot of different things in the community that need some adjustments.
My name is Robert, but I go by Bob. Last name is B, B-E-E, like Bumblebee. And I'm the Vice President and General Manager of WHTM ABC 27. And I'm proud of my team. They're out in the community. And this is a great discussion to be having. And I thank you very much for inviting me, because one of the subjects is how you package these young people so that we can celebrate their successes, their participation. And that's a big part of what's going on, because as you know, over time, we've got a lot of young people a lot of different things, a lot of different programs. And we cover 10 counties and well over 50 schools and organizations like Big Brothers and Big Sisters and all of the different organizations that have youth athletic and youth computer skills and all sorts of STEM. So if we can figure out a way to better package that information, because it's not 3 football teams or 5 football teams, it's 30 different clubs times 50, 60, 70, 100 different organizations. So if when the media comes to celebrate these wonderful achievements by young people, we have the who, what, when, where, why, and how picture all organized so they can be in and out in 10 minutes. That's a big ask. Oh, and also the spelling correct. And also if people have names that others may not pronounce easily, the phonetic version of the name so that they say it correctly on air. And I know that sounds like a big ask, but the organizations that do that tend to get more attention than the others because the reporters don't have an hour or two to spend, sadly. And the attention span of our viewers is not very long. So we need to have the information kind of packaged when we get there. If anything's left out, we can ask a question and then move on. So that's kind of my message, and we can talk about that as the show progresses.
I think part of the issue that you highlight was the packaging and what makes the news. I think that's the continuation of the conversation from last week with our young people that we wanted to have, because they talked a lot about, you know, when they are doing well, it not being highlighted, not saying strictly on the news, but just in the community at large, and staying on the right path is not necessarily celebrated as much as it should be, although a lot of people are requiring it. So what are you guys doing from your professional roles, your grassroots, your community service roles? There's a lot of volunteerism as well as stuff y'all getting paid for. You know, what is it that y'all do? What is it that we can do, not y'all do? What is it that we can do to make sure that the young people, number one, have things to be celebrated, number two, recognize they are being celebrated, and then 3, pass it on to their peers, you know, so that they can, as I said before, they're the engines. They're going to lead this, and that's that good peer pressure that we're trying to exemplify throughout our communities. And that's the only way, from my thoughts, you know, that's the only way we really start to change the narrative that we're seeing projected.
I'll start just from the club's perspective, and obviously I'll be speaking in terms of how we go there. The club, recognition is one of our key elements in terms of what we try to do. And you're exactly right. We also know that, you know, from recent news of some of our kids getting into some things that we don't like to see them getting into, but we also know that we have, you know, just from the club's perspective, we awarded 5 scholarships to children that attended college this year.
Right.
But additionally, with that, you know, recognition just from the ground root, the basic level, whether it's attendance, you know, attending school on a regular basis, whether it's, you know, having an improved progress report, you know, and additionally, you know, if they've made some just adjustments in their personality, more importantly, because that's one of the things we're looking at is character building. Hey, you know, such and such, you did a great job, you know, which as being a friend, as being a leader today, you did along with that we try to make sure our staff recognizes the good things that they do. I think that's real important. It's one of our staples in our mission that we try to do is recognition.
So how do we get that out there? So internally, it's something that's good going on in the club. How do we get that message out there more? I mean, you have a television person, not personality, but you have somebody, he is a television personality on a seat at the table, at least. No, but you know, you have access to media. If we're bickering and complaining, which I do, about our communities not being reflected in a more positive role, what is, and Bob has already said to us here, you know, he needs the who, what, where, why, how, and get out there. What is it that we can do to make sure that we're flooding 27 and other markets with the positives that's going on? Understanding that sometimes those outlying issues are going to make the news, but they don't need to be repeated in the news always when we're flooding, you know, the news with good stories, positive stories.
And I'm going to say this, and I'll let Duke and the others speak, but one thing I'll just say in terms of from the club's perspective is one of the things that we've traditionally have always done that within the clubs. We are learning, just like a lot of institutions are learning how to adapt to the new world and how we communicate those messages across the different means and ways that we communicate nowadays through social media and our regular news outlets and things of that sort. But that is one of the things that we've been engaged in trying to change over. From the club's perspective, again, we have social media sites. We have a Facebook page. We have Instagram and those types of things that go along with and doing those recognitions. So, and then of course, email and all those other sorts. So the traditional outlets that we used to see, printed ink and news outlets, and also, and no disrespect to Bob, but the 5 and 6 o'clock news are not always the generational, as we see it, is the way that everyone is getting their information on a day-to-day basis, especially sometimes the audiences that we serve within our communities, the small and the younger audiences that we serve here at the club.
And I actually just, I caught on to it a little while later as well. We try to learn as we go, because being a grassroots program, you can't, it's not going to be that easy just to catch on to certain things. It's a process. And I actually figured that out, that I had to go to social media. And that's why I take a gang of pictures. I always tell our staff, look, take some pictures, put that out on IG, Instagram, Facebook, all the different programs that they have out there that we can get, out flooded in social media. But that has not been right up front. And I mean, went many years without, having anything out there. But I can say, just being a grassroots program and just starting out at the beginning, it wasn't something that we wasn't really worried about. It was just a goodwill of giving back to the community and, keeping the kids off the streets and things like that. But as I caught on, I said, man, it's well needed. And then, of course, a couple times here and there, like you said, 6 o'clock news, we're always faced with the fact that if something happens, and nothing against you, Bob, but if something happens based on violence or something like that, then somebody's ready to, put that out there in the media and whatnot. So that was one of our situations. That's what is very discouraging to me, because I think our kids deserve more than that. They need, with social media at that level, I think they need, when we having events and certificates and giving away, and awards and stuff like that, that's the time that we need to highlight that real, time.
So it's about so they'll find us if something goes wrong.
Right. I mean, I got direct connection.
Yeah, if something was going wrong at the boys club or at, the media outlets, find us, in social media, especially.
Right.
So I guess what I'm asking is, how do we do a better job? And Bob, maybe this is where you come. How can we do a better job of highlighting on a regular basis those stories that we would like to see highlighted in our community? Our young people are yearning for to see themselves, showcased, etc. And then you have Good Day PA. I know there's some outlets, but they're in school now, and then they're, this is basically just open on the floor.
So we've covered a whole lot of things, and I don't want to occupy too much time, but let me just say there is generational differences in consumption of media.
Sure.
That's one.
Sure.
The more mature members of the community, for which I'm a full-fledged member, consume the 5 and the 6 and the 11 p.m.
Sure.
newses, and the folks that are parents of young people are mostly consuming early morning news to get out the door. And they are big dynamic consumers of social media and digital extensions of all kinds. And then finally, the young people, and I'm going to call the young people under 25, maybe even under 30, they're primarily seeing the world through iPhones, from smartphones, or whatever name you want to use for them. However, I will tell you that causes all media to produce things in short form, and remember that media consumption is not all real time anymore. That's another thing that's it's a difficult, as you're measuring media, it's hard to measure because it's not the fireplace, it's not the hearth in the living room. We have as many people now consuming our news off of abc27.com as we do off of ABC27, the TV station. Right. I mean, that's a dynamic change in a very short, I'm doing this only 42 years, and I can tell you that's a rather dynamic change. So here's a couple of thoughts that I share with you. One, you know that nobody actually gets the 5 foot by 3 foot $100,000 check that gets presented on TV, right? You can't bring that to a bank.
Right.
And so it's really just a piece of poster board and a magic marker. Or whether you take some stencils and spray paint a wall, the celebration circle, the winner's circle, but really produce those little pictures that you take of people winning, hand them a certificate of achievement. If you haven't filled it out with their name yet, that's okay. It's for the photo op.
Sure.
And it makes a difference because really what people are going to remember is the headline.
Sure.
And so headlining is kind of important. Winner, achiever, those kinds of things are key words to be in big print on whatever thing you put together. And then, yes, you're doing a good job of sending it out there, but I would tell you that there are so many different ways for children to succeed nowadays. Right. There's so many that it's hard to say, we used to all know who the quarterback of the football team is. And now we're finding out who the esports genius in your school is. But there's also the chess club champion, and there's just so many different ways now to celebrate young people. And you got to break through the clutter. And breaking through the clutter is to have it better produced than the next school or thing. And so the young people can help you making sure that they have the who, what, when, where, why, and how filled out and collective, so that when a reporter asks a question or you send out the email or put it onto social media, you have that information. A little bit about social media. We have professional journalists. They start their training in college and they come to us, and they're trained at communicating the who, what, when, where, and how. They start very simply at there was a traffic accident on the corner of 5th and Main. There's not an opinion there. There was either a traffic or there wasn't a traffic accident. And as they matriculate, they can get into more sophisticated reporting. On social media, there's a blending of opinions and non-trained people and things like that. So when you can send it to, I don't want to use the term legitimate media, but the trained media, your local media, that is an extension that's likely to get better. And we need to do better too, to build tabs on our websites and our social media platforms that are for the schools, high school sports and high school academics and the clubs and things like that. And I urge you, for example, like the Big Brothers and, Boys and Girls Club. Right. There's a lot of boys and girls clubs out there. Maybe that you guys could collectively help the media by organizing a page, and then I can tab to Harrisburg, Lancaster, Lebanon, York, that kind of thing, so that we can make it easier to communicate to people how to find it. So those are just some mild suggestions that can help. And I think that we all can work together on building better ways to make it easier for people to focus. I'm going to leave you with another thought, which is that a tipping point did occur about 3 or 4 years ago. We can all decide how that happened, but all the research has changed, and all the research is showing people really want to hear good things about young people. They want to consume that. There was a time when, frankly, they didn't have a big appetite for it. Now they, frankly, have more of an appetite for it than they do news that is disturbing. They'd like to be able to watch the newscast and not ask their children to leave the room. So this is a window of opportunity for all of us to get it right. And I look forward to suggestions from you guys on how better we can do it.
That's where I was going with Duke.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to go. So for suggestions.
I had a question for Bob. When you said a tab, you referring to a Facebook or a page when you
Yeah,
talk
right.
about?
So if you go to, let's say the story is on Facebook and it says, young person does great thing, right? And so then you click through and it goes to the abc27.com. Well, where does that go? Because there's other people entering through our front door or entering because they saw a thing on TV that said, go to the website. And so we have high school sports.
Right.
I don't know that we have, I know we don't have a tab for high school academic achievement. We're working on that. As a matter of fact, we're working with a gentleman who celebrates, and I wish I could remember the name of the organization, but young people of color who are doing wonderful things in science, math, and there's an awards program that the NAACP has been doing for a long time.
Brunson.
What's
Cobber Brunson, Mr. Cobber Brunson, AXO program.
The AXO program.
Right.
And so we're going to this spring start celebrating that on TV and on the website and on social media. Frankly, there's lots of opportunities for us to get better at that. And it was perfect content. It's just what we need. It's young people doing great things. How much more could I ask for?
Right.
But in that conversation, they haven't packaged it easily for media can consume. So this is all a dynamic cultural change we're going through. And if we don't do it right, somebody else will, and we'll get lost in the sauce.
And just my last point about that, and you mentioned interns, because Karl will always say, I try to not do this, but because you have interns and we are nonprofit organizations, we have limited budgets, would you have interns or would there be interns available to help? Because I think one of the things that you're sharing, I think is great, is what we're experiencing is that we are transitioning to learning how to package these types of successes as well. And it would be great to have folks in that field who are looking for certain structures to assist us in helping us package those types of stories.
Yeah, I was going to ask the same thing. That kind of, having a type relationship with a significant person that could potentially do all that, instead of saying, hey, well, if we streamline it or we put it up ourselves and then they put it on I'm not sure how you do it on 27.com, but having a go-to person to say, hey, look, you can come out and just, even if they could just come out and witness some of the things that we're doing. And then have that relationship, because it could be potentially a kid in there that wants to be an anchor, wants to be a person of interest of the news. You might have the best guy there.
So the answer is yes. And if we can get together after this,
sure,
I can assure you that Karl will help me develop a communication stream so that we can all get together. But I would tell you that it's less likely to be during coronavirus, having 20 kids come over to the plant.
Sure.
Right.
But our individuals on a volunteer basis, including myself, would be very willing to come to different institutions and help you guys learn how to package and understand what a priority it is.
All right. And on that, we'll take a quick commercial break. And on the other side of this, I want to highlight what you were speaking of, Mr. Cobber Bronson in the NAACP. He heads up the AXO program, which stands for Afro Academic, Cultural, Technological, and Scientific Olympics. That's what the AXO program stands for. So we'll have more information available there as well. And we'll have Mr. Bronson on highlighting that as we move forward. So what we'll do now, we'll take a quick commercial break and we'll continue this conversation on the other side. You're here live again with the seat at the table, hosted by yours truly, Karl Singleton. Thanks for joining us. Okay, and thank you. We are back with our robust panel. And as we continue our conversation, we want to talk about just what you all would like to see from the community. How would you like your programs packaged, received, I should say, not packaged, but received? Because a lot of I'll be nice right now. So yeah.
Well, me personally, there's like a little sound bite we get. I have a partnership with Faulkner Subaru, and they bought us on a radio station, and we took that sound bite and we added pictures to it, and it comes up and it flares out. You know what I mean? It's almost like a commercial. I think that's needed because like the kids are looking for something tangible. Something that they can say, they can look at, they can perceive and say, wow, I saw myself, in that commercial, and it brings excitement to the parents as well. And they get more involved when they see their kid is really involved or engaged in a.
So you're taking on, okay, so we get that part. You all in particular with the Boys and Girls Club in Loop as a grassroots organization, you all have taken on a lot of responsibility. My question is, what can the community and the parents do?
Oh, okay.
In terms of the balance, because it's easy for them to sit back and say there's nothing to do and throw their hands up. But this whole thing about the community, it's all of us. It's not just let's dump on Loop. Let's dump them on, the Boys and Girls Club. It's reciprocated. What do you need from the other side to make sure that your program is still alive, well, and growing?
I would say more volunteers. People. We definitely need volunteers because most times we get exhausted from some of the team players that's already in it, and it's not easy to do something, especially if you're doing it off a shoestring. You're asking people to pitch in here and there because our program again is free. It's free to the youth. We don't charge them anything. So in that manner, I mean, there's a lot of times where we have to compensate the volunteers in a way, and I try my best to figure out how we can do that. I just think more volunteers need to step up and and get involved.
And I say, and I'm saying definitely yes with the volunteers, but there's also American Rescue Plan dollars that the county, the city, and the school district have access to that is currently in their budget. So our community members can volunteer, but at the same time, there are resources out there that came from public activities, we'll say, that could be implemented back into the community. And so you have, school district in particular that talks about parent engagement and the return on investment for before and after school programs. You're a before and after school program, both of you. So there needs to be a more solidified partnership, I would submit, at the state level, since we are still technically under state control here in the city. But this is as well as Stilton, Central Dauphin, Susquehanna, all the schools, in our service area, we'll say, when we talk about 27 News, have received the American Rescue Plan dollars, as well as those borough councils. And so it doesn't always have to be free either when there are resources available and that can help enhance your program. Mark.
Yeah. And to your point, and I would hope that our parents would support the advocacy of bringing in after school programs into the schools and receiving some of that partnership. We are programs that are solidified and have, programs that have been proven and have been marketed already. And, once again, that there is a dollar amount out there that we can begin to partner with our schools. There is, you and I spoke about this before, there is written in some of this language, there is a contingency that they support community-based organizations.
Right.
And, I believe, Boys and Girls Club, Loop B&G, WISE, and, other programs as well fit within those categories. And they're working in other cities, working in cities like Philadelphia and other cities in particular. But we know some of the struggles that we have here in Harrisburg, but we would love to see Stilton, Harrisburg, our surrounding local city areas as well support after school programs such as the club and get their kids involved and advocate for us to be a part of that 21st century money that you're talking about.
And I'm gonna say we have real conversations. So if the parents, me included as a parent, if we can figure out a way how to compartmentalize and figure out how to fund a prom, and how to make homecoming a big deal, and all these are things too that are feeder systems in terms of making sure that our community is and our kids, our young people in our community are highlighted in appropriate ways. So I wanted to talk about accountability on the other side as well. We have as parents, in terms of our young people, because it's not the school's job, and it's not the before and after school programs jobs alone to enhance the community, because they're coming back home as well. Bob, thoughts?
Well, I can only speak to my world, and I would tell you that squeaky wheels get the most oil. And so to the people who are listening, to the viewers, and I'm share with you that calling us and saying, I would like to see more of this, that, or the other thing gets attention.
Right.
So hearing from our audiences always is an important thing. And by the way, I would tell you that, as Karl knows, expands to our legislators and our leaders.
Right.
If, share your thoughts and ask for what it is you're looking for. And who knows, you may not always get what you want, but you're likely to get something if you ask. If you don't ask, you're likely not. That's the world we live in, and that's because there's so many different things. And truth is, squeaky wheels do get the most oil.
Closed mouths don't get fed.
Right.
And on that note, we'll take another quick commercial break, and we'll wrap it up on the other side of this commercial. Here again, we have the general manager of Channel 27 News, Mr. Robert B. We have Minister Dr. Duke Burnett of Loop B&G, and we have Mr. Mark Hawthorne of the Boys and Girls Club of Harrisburg. We'll see you on the other side. All right. And as we continue our conversation, we'll wrap it up with, of course, from our side, a big thank you to the work that all three of you gentlemen are doing in the community. And of course, you're no stranger to the show. We want to make sure we're intentional in terms of our repetitiveness of having you on, because to Bob's point, the squeaky wheel gets the oil, and you're doing a great service, a great body of work. All three of you. As I said time and time again, it does me no good to have relationships, throughout the Commonwealth where I can sit and have one-on-one conversations, but not share those relationships, not bring everybody together so that ultimately the masses it serves as opposed to just the chosen few. And so I think this is just another conversation headed in that direction in terms of serving more people, and making sure that our community continues to be enhanced in the most positive, productive ways possible, and that we all learn from each other as we move forward. So on that, it is great to have you again. A warm thank you. And I'd like you just to summarize, on your way out, is there something the community should know that's going on with your programs as we continue to aspire to have a more engaged community, positive community, and ultimately the community that we all benefit from while helping it enhance its young people?
I'll start. Just to kind of, once again, thank you again here at Seat at the Table, Karl. Really appreciate you giving us the platform and to speak about the club and the work that we do. But, just kind of wanted to re-stress that we have a multitude of programs and activities that kids are engaging in. And one of the things that we like to say at the club is that, number one, we're a safe place for kids to be at. And we, along with those programs, we just want kids to come in and have a good time. We've been in a year and a half of an unprecedented time within our world. And one of the things that's been important for me in terms of the kids is just kind of getting them back into a normalcy of socialization. I think that's one of the important things that has been missing from our community. Kids have been, we were already kind of drifted into a desocialization society. That's another talk show. However, one of the things that the club has always done, you grew up in, I grew up in, is that we've been a social organization that teach people and kids how to engage and be productive, positive people within that social environment. So we have programs from, basketball, football, esports, IT, woodshop, social, vocational, that just kind of encompasses the arts, that just kind of encompasses the whole child and give them an opportunity to engage with their peers and, more importantly, with people who they trust and care about. So I welcome parents, volunteers. We're always open for you to come and take tours, see what we're doing, come and visit. And the other thing, lastly, is that Coach Duke hit the nail on the head perfectly. I've said it before. We are looking for volunteers ages 25 to 35 in particular, because I just believe that that's a great age group that begins to reach our kids at their level, and also their parents of our new generation as well. But we would definitely love to see more and people engaged at that level and at that age group as well. So thank you.
All right. You heard it.
Yep. Once again, Karl, we thank Loop thanks you for a seat at the table as well. And also thank you, Mark, and thank you, Bob, for coming out and participating. I just want to say Loop's a left out organization program that provides programs for inner city youth for all the parents out there. And our time is from 5:30 to 8:30 at night, from Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday at this point in time. And we just ask people to get involved and just, have your kid, bring your kid and drop him off. He's in a safe area. We teach him life skills, life lessons, and we have our little one-on-ones with them and stuff. So that's it. I mean, if you do that part, we'll do the rest.
Where can I drop my kids off at?
Excuse me. I'm sorry. 1524 Walnut Street, Allison Hill Center. Absolutely.
Central Allison Hill Community Center.
Hill.
And we know where the Bear Hill Street Boys Club and
Southside
Boys Club,
Absolutely.
Hall Manor,
Cumberland Road.
Yeah,
coming back.
All right, that one's coming back.
Yes.
I'm biased.
Yeah, I know.
Southside, Hall Manor Boys Club.
I know.
John and Hall.
Yes.
Mr. B.
I just want to say thank you for having me, and gentlemen, thank you. Let's work a little together and collaborate and make some changes as we're going through this change that we're all going through.
Absolutely.
All right. And to our viewing audience, and of course, the control room, we thank you all for joining us. The Lewis brothers here at Music Man Multimedia Studios, of course, Chad at the district, and Miss our own Angela in the control room today. We thank you for your time. Thank you to our viewing audience, and we'll see you next time on the Seat at the Table.